Hello and welcome to Biz Buzz with Bruno, presented by Mads Theater. I'm Michael Bruno, your host, and today we have Madison Shakespeare Company with their upcoming production of Twelfth Night. And in the glamorous studio today, we have Colin Loeffler, the director, and the lovely and talented Catherine Bartson, who is playing Olivia in the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
We're so excited to be here.
Excellent. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the production, if you would.
Sure. So this is a production of Twelfth Night. I think one of Shakespeare's more popular comedies. Interestingly, one of the last comedies he wrote in his career. It's the story of Viola, who is shipwrecked in the magical land of Illyria. She decides very quickly the way to be successful is to disguise herself as a man. So Viola becomes Cesario, and that really takes us through the show. She falls in love with the Duke Orsino. Orsino is in love with Olivia. And then there's a really fun B-plot with some drunken revelers playing a prank on someone who tells them not to be so drunk. Little something for everyone.
Revelers.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
This production takes place in the 1990s, sort of a fantasy grunge 90s, very much based on like the Pacific Northwest style of the time. I've been searching for a portmanteau of grunge and Illyria. There's not a good one, but I call it grunge-lyria in my head. So yeah, that's our costume designer Julia has really run with that. So we're going to see some really fun 90s references in the show.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit more about your character.
So Olivia is a countess. She is a wealthy and kind of strong, independent woman. She's recently lost both her father and her brother, so she's in mourning, but she's partially in mourning to have an excuse to ignore all of the suitors who keep coming her way. She wants nothing to do with the Duke Orsino. He keeps sending person after person after person to flirt with her on his behalf. So she has some kind of trusted advisors and friends. Her friend Mariah, Malvolio is kind of, in this production, her family's attorney, her trusted advisor. And her clown, or her fool, Festi, keeps them all entertained. And she also lives with her uncle Toby, who is one of the drunken revelers who keeps causing all the problems. So Olivia's kind of had enough of men until Cesario waltzes into her life to flirt with her on behalf of the Duke Orsino. And she's like, oh, that one. I like that one.
And have you done other productions with Madison Shakespeare Company?
Yeah, this is actually my second season. I was a much smaller role in Much Ado About Nothing last summer, which was so fun. So I was very excited to be asked to be a part of it again this year.
Excellent. And tell me a little bit more about Madison Shakespeare Company.
Sure. So it started in 2013. There was some organizational change that happened. And now they've been doing summer productions, various pop-ups, usually a Valentine's style production, as well as some Shakespeare in the Park readings. So they've got stuff year-round. It's a company I'm really pleased to be working with, and I'm glad someone in the Madison area, and I would say the greater Dane County area, is doing exclusively Shakespeare. Some of Shakespeare's contemporaries as well, but that firmly English Renaissance work.
And they perform most of these outdoors. Is that right?
Sometimes indoors, but a lot, I think 85% to even more outdoors.
The annual Valentine's show, obviously being in Wisconsin, needs to be indoors. But Shakespeare in the Park, this April I was a part of, and it was actually snowing, but we all toughed it out, as did our, I think, 4 brave audience members. Jason Compton, our incredible producer, has also done things on the roof at the Madison Children's Museum, various parks, and the Tiranina Brewing Company out in Lake Mills. So he's really committed to the outdoor experience, which patrons of Twelfth Night will get a beautiful dose of. We'll be at the Madison Country Day School amphitheater. So all outdoors, looking out onto the Cherokee Marsh, which is absolutely gorgeous. So it is a beautiful, beautiful place to get to put on a show.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about your background before you came to Madison Shakespeare.
Absolutely. So my degree, I have a double major in English literature and theater, and Shakespeare was really the focus of my time in college. I went to school in Illinois. and I loved doing Shakespeare. Is my favorite thing to work on. I studied it really intently. Then I moved out and did professional work in Philadelphia and kept getting hired as music directors for various productions because I can play the piano. So when you have success in something like that, that sort of just snowballs. But I really was like, okay, I do like doing this, but it's not my favorite thing to do in the theater. So I'm so excited to be back doing Shakespeare, which is really what I consider my theatrical home base. And Twelfth Night has been on my bucket list of productions to work on for a long time. So, I mean, truthfully, it's a show I would have done anything to be a part of. So very happy to be directing our production here.
And have you done any acting with Shakespeare?
I mean, yes, in that I had to take Shakespeare acting classes, but I very much prefer to be behind the table than on stage. I think everyone has their home base, and I know what mine is and should be.
Excellent. And what's your background?
I have always been a lover of Shakespeare, both reading and seeing and being a part of it. One of my high school English teachers, Mr. Rodriguez, was the first who told me that Shakespeare should be seen and not read. So we read all of we read Hamlet and Macbeth in high school, but it was always such a treat for me to get to see Shakespeare done live. And Twelfth Night was actually the first Shakespeare production that I ever saw live. So it has kind of this special place in my heart. And then performing Shakespeare, I did a few kind of small bits and pieces here and there in high school. But when I found Madison Shakespeare Company, I was delighted to see, they do their big flagship full show in the summer. And I feel really lucky to be a part of that. It's just so fun to perform. And you can go and see other Shakespeare shows that update the language and, do this and that. Madison Shakespeare Company is really excellent in that they stay true to the original work by Shakespeare. So you will hear all of the old language. You'll hear the way that it was meant to be heard by Shakespeare himself. But we have some incredible actors and a wonderful director who make sure that we have our small tricks to make sure the audience will understand exactly what's going on.
And I think that's sometimes audiences are daunted by that because they're afraid they're not going to understand the language, because the language, obviously, we don't speak that way anymore. No. And sometimes the vocabulary is kind of tough on people if they really don't have a grasp of that. So I understand people's hesitancy, but visually it's always wonderful actually to watch it being done. Absolutely. Because when you read it on the page, you're thinking, well, gosh, what does that mean? You can kind of Google and look it up and cheat. But watching a live performance, I think that just adds a whole other layer of interest to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, not only does it help make it clearer, I think even just hearing the words spoken out loud, there's maybe like a 5 to 10 minute sort of delay in just getting acclimated to that language. Mm-hmm. But I think after 10 minutes of watching any well done Shakespeare production, you're kind of in it at that point and like, oh, I do understand what they're saying. It sure is different how we talk today, but it's not that different at the end of the day.
And I think our performers make it really accessible.
Absolutely. I mean, the level of talent we have is really incredible, and that makes a huge difference as well. So,
and these are all local performers, is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
And you're a native Madisonian, right?
I am. I grew up on the west side. Yes, I'm a Memorial graduate, which is actually really fun. We have 4 Memorial grads in or associated with the production. So Mariah, who's kind of my sidekick in the show, is played by Kelsey Udisi, and she was a senior at Memorial when I was a freshman. And then when I was a senior, one of my freshmen in our theater department was Julia Siegel, who's our incredible costume designer and director. And then our assistant director, Cassie, is also a part of it. So it's kind of this family from a long time ago come back together, which is incredible. And Colin is from Sun Prairie. Yeah. Jackson Rosenberry, who is one of the comedic follies in the show.
And another one of your suitors as well.
Yes. So many of them.
You can't have enough of those.
Yeah.
He grew up in Wanakee, so we have this whole local kind of people who have moved here since, but then people who grew up here as well, which is really a treat.
I think that's really neat and speaks to what a great community Madison is, that we can find all of these people locally who aren't just actors, which is already an incredible skill, but Shakespearean actors who can do classical theater well. To find 15 people who can do it the way our cast can do it is really phenomenal.
And there are so many fabulous comedic actors in this show. Poor Colin, I think, was getting a little fed up with us at rehearsal. But Twelfth Night is at its heart a rom-com, and there was one rehearsal where I think we added on 45 minutes longer than we needed because we could not stop breaking character to like cry laughing at each other. These people are so funny that I think the audience is in for real treats. We will have it together at that point, I promise. The audience will be in stitches.
Yeah.
It is a
and I
very
think that's
funny
also
show.
another advantage. A lot of people that are new to Shakespeare, when it's a comedy, you feel like, okay, I'm kind of getting the slapstick, I'm getting the routine with that. Whereas you come into a tragedy, it's like, oh, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's hard to follow. But I personally, that's kind of like my impression with it. I love the comedy so much because they're relatable, because having done comedy for so long. But it's wonderful, just like you say, that there's a company that really devotes to doing all sorts of those productions.
Absolutely.
So when you were in high school, did you do any Shakespeare in high school? Did you do the regular drama classes or musicals? Or
Yeah, I did musicals, which is why I am now just a Shakespearean actor. It's a Shakespeare-level tragedy to see me attempt to dance, so no musicals for me anymore. I had an acting partner who was a dear friend of mine, Mason Rather, and we did bits and pieces from Hamlet and Taming of the Shrew and other things like that for our forensics team at Memorial. So never a full-length production until last year, so I feel very lucky.
Really?
Yeah, but it's always been one of my goals.
Well, you could always do something rotten. They'll tick off everything. They'll tick off Shakespeare, they'll tick musical comedy, they'll tick off everything.
I'll add it to the list.
You're in your rehearsals now, correct?
Absolutely.
And you're opening up in the second weekend of July, right?
Yep, Friday, July 14th is our first performance. We run that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the following weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Excellent. So what do you hope to do after this production for directing wise?
I have some things lined up. I'm going to be working on The Sound of Music with Sun Prairie Civic Theater. And then I do have something lined up for next spring. I'm just not allowed to talk about it yet. So exciting stuff, but wish I could speak about it, but I can't, unfortunately.
Well, we'll have to have you come back when you can speak about it.
Absolutely. I think that's a good plan.
Don't speak.
Stay tuned.
And what's upcoming for you?
Well, as to the disappointment
Very
of
sad
my
about
we're gonna
it.
cry now.
theater friends
Yeah.
in Madison, I am actually leaving Madison in August. I'll be starting law school at Boston University in the fall, which is very exciting for me. A huge accomplishment, so I'm excited for that. But I feel very lucky that school doesn't start until September, so I get all summer here to enjoy the show and say my goodbyes and things like that.
And when did you decide that you wanted to go into law school? It's a fascinating kind of, not that it makes it a huge leap, especially if you're going to, be doing legalese things.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like public speaking and performing is definitely a talent that will lend itself. So that's nice. It was a couple years back, I started to feel frustrated with the problems that I saw in our society. And I said, a lawyer can do something about this. So, but Annie J is someone who's closely a part of Madison Shakespeare Company. She was the director for their Valentine's Affair this year, and she is an incredibly impressive attorney. So our joke is that I'll come back and be her intern next summer, and then I can be a part of the show again.
We've got it all mapped out, Annie. Did you hear that now?
So there's hope that I can make a return.
Excellent. So what do you see as far as the company? Will the company ever continue to do things in just different places, or eventually would they like to find a permanent home?
I think the joy is in all the different places they can do productions right now. I mean, I went to see the remounted Valentine's Affair that they did at the start of June, which was at Tyranina Brewing in Lake Mills. Not a bad day to go sit outside, drink a beer, and watch some really great Shakespeare scenes. Same with at the Madison Country Day School Amphitheater. I don't think we can emphasize how beautiful the background is going to be for this production. It's a gorgeous space. So I think, as nice as it can be to have a permanent home, there's a lot of fun to be had in being able to produce things where they'll have you. And I think our producer, Jason Compton, really enjoys finding new places to be able to produce a scene or a full show, whatever he can.
And is the company a core of regular people that are always doing the same shows, or is it open to anybody that wants to audition for it?
It is open to anybody who wants to audition, but there is some core leadership that kind of stays the same from show to show.
our actress for Viola this year, Maddie, is incredibly talented, and she's done several things with Madison Shakespeare Company in the past. So she might be a familiar face for those who have been to shows in the past. Jackson Rosenberry as well, a huge part of the company and wildly talented. So, and he's in things all over Madison. So people might have seen him before as well.
And there used to be, I don't know if you remember, there used to be a children's Shakespeare Company. Is that still happening?
That is still around. Why don't you talk about it?
We are not associated directly with them, but we've had a lot of alumni, including an alumni from Young Shakespeare Players in our show this summer. So they send us a lot of talent, which is incredible. And it's such an amazing program to have here in Madison to kind of get all of these young people involved in something that is so powerful and so such a part of culture as we know it. There are a few words that you'll hear in Twelfth Night that Shakespeare invented. He just added them to the English language, including the word whirligig, which I love.
That's a great word.
Yeah, so, Shakespeare is in so many parts of our daily life that we don't even realize, so it's really cool to have young people in our community be so involved in it, and then we get to benefit from their talent a few years on.
Absolutely. The actor that Catherine's talking about, you were at the rehearsal where I was like, okay, we're going to do a quick rundown on scansion and verse and how to speak in verse. And he was like, oh, I actually got it already. He just knew what to do right away. So I was very impressed with the work that young Shakespeare had done and the training he had received. And it took a huge load off of my back as well. So please keep it up. And I would love for those people to keep coming out for these shows.
And do you know that they still have that really cool theater building on West Lawn Avenue?
That I can't speak
idea.
to. I believe they do because that's by the Trader Joe's, right? And when
right behind Trader Joe's.
Yes, they have their posters up there because I'm there just about every week. So.
I remember in a previous life when I was doing things, I would always look for that to happen. And it's such a great space. And they were doing amazing things, even then, pre-pandemic. It's nice to know that they're still around teaching the youngins. To learn their Shakespeare and Odds Bodkins and Gadzooks and all that stuff. So, is there anything else that we haven't touched on about this particular production or about the company in general, or just things you'd like to talk about?
I just think if people want to get tickets, that would be MadisonShakespeareCompany.org. Tickets are sold through Eventbrite. Details on the performances are there. And if we ever do have to cancel a show due to inclement weather, tickets will always be honored at any future Madison Shakespeare Company for performance. So, for example, you were going to come on that last Sunday and your ticket couldn't be used. But it's, of course, not going to happen to this production.
No rain to be had here.
I know, sadly.
It's actually funny because it's been so dry, and the show ends with a monologue from Festi that repeats the line, "The rain, it raineth every day." And I just keep thinking, no, it does not, in fact.
We've jinxed it. It's our fault.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, farmers.
So since these are at different various locations, do people bring in their own snacks or beverages, or is that not allowed?
We have a full concession stand with water, especially, and other beverages because it does tend to get really warm mid-July. But people are welcome to bring in, water bottle snacks. It is outside at a school, so we appreciate, family-friendly beverages and things like that. But the other thing that folks can bring is a cushion or a blanket. The amphitheater is absolutely gorgeous and has kind of that upwards seating on rocks, which is actually shockingly really comfortable. But just for a long time, you might want a cushion. You feel free to bring a lawn chair. But that would be what I would recommend to bring.
Yeah, I would say a chair is a safe thing to bring just because there is additional seating. If you don't happen to get a spot on the rock, you can sort of sit off and your view won't change at all. You'll still get a great production. So,
and is it just one ticket price, general admission, or is it different?
$15.
$15 general admission.
You can't get a $15 ticket to anything these days
no,
anymore.
You cannot.
A 1990s show and a 1990s economic policy.
And there's no age limit? Are young kids encouraged to come?
Absolutely. There were a lot of young kids in the audience last summer, and I think they had a great time. It's a family-friendly show. You have your Shakespeare jokes that are of a certain color. But exactly. Exactly.
No, I think the beauty of Twelfth Night and really most Shakespeare comedies is that I think a kid can get a lot of enjoyment out of them. There's some really funny physical comedy that happens in the show too.
they love that.
Even if they don't have any idea what's going on, they'll get a really good laugh out of it. So it's a lot of Jackson Rosenberry doing that.
Very talented.
Yes.
A fake sword fight that no one actually wants to be a part of.
Wants to fight.
You know, a slap that's supposed to be mean but just comes off really wimpy. Everyone will find something to love in this production.
Absolutely.
That's great. It sounds like a lot of fun. I know that, you know, when people think, like I'd say again, people hear Shakespeare and like, oh, but it sounds like this is going to be a really fun production that everybody can enjoy.
Absolutely. I think that's the joy of most Shakespeare comedies, actually. I mean, I like the tragedies and histories as well, but I certainly think, especially if you aren't familiar with Shakespeare, it's something that feels a little daunting to you, shows like Twelfth Night are the ones to start out with, and this production would be a great opportunity to try that.
Excellent. Well, get your tickets now. Buy early, buy often, buy repeatedly, buy group tickets for the family and everybody to come and see it. Thank you so much for coming today, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next time on Biz Buzz with moi. Gadzooks.